My name is Amelia Hayes. I'm 35 and a single mother to my 8-year-old son, Leo. What was supposed to be just another routine Saturday dinner at my parents' house devolved into a living hell I can never unsee. I used to think family was a safe harbor, even with the constant undercurrent of tension between my sister Claire and me. I genuinely believed that blood was thicker than water. I was profoundly mistaken. Before I get into how my own family turned on me that Saturday, let me know where you're tuning in from, and if this kind of family drama feels familiar, don't forget to like and subscribe. The two-story colonial where I spent my childhood looks identical to how I remember it. The white picket fence my father repainted every single spring, my mother's rose bushes blooming in a riot of color along the front walk, and the big maple tree in the yard where I shared a clumsy first kiss with a boy from down the street in middle school. Once a month, Leo and I make the 45-minute drive for these family dinners, a tradition my mother, Margaret, insists on. Family needs to stay close, she always declares, though her version of close has always felt more like a periodic interrogation. Pushing open that front door always feels like traveling back in time, and not in a warm, fuzzy, nostalgic way. It's more like being 15 again, perpetually falling short of some invisible standard. The gallery of photos lining the hallway tells the story my parents prefer to tell. Claire in her cap and gown. Claire holding up a trophy from some academic decathlon. Claire smiling at a ceremony where she received a teaching award. You'd have to look pretty hard to find any pictures of me. Margaret Hayes, my 64-year-old mother, met us at the door, offering her signature arm's-length hug, the kind that conveys distance more than affection, as if she fears my status as a single mom is something she might catch. Her silver hair was flawlessly coiffed, not a single hair out of place, much like the meticulously maintained facade of our family. "Amelia, you're 10 minutes late," she announced, her version of a greeting. Her tone then did a complete 180 as she turned to my son. "And there's my precious boy. Come give your Nana a real hug." My father, Richard, 67, grunted his standard welcome from his well-worn recliner, his gaze locked on a golf tournament. "Hey, kid," he mumbled, and I was never sure if he was addressing me or Leo. And then there was Claire, my 30-year-old sister, the star elementary school teacher, the family's undisputed golden child. She was leaning against the kitchen doorway, a glass of Chardonnay in hand, her eyes immediately zeroing in on Leo's sneakers with a look of pure disdain. "Shoes off inside, Leo," she said, before even a hello. "Some of us actually care about keeping the floors clean." I swallowed the retort that was on the tip of my tongue. Again, "Leo, sweetheart, remember what I said about taking your shoes off at Nana and Grandpa's house?" Leo hastily kicked off his sneakers, his wide hazel eyes darting around the room, searching for a sign of approval. My sweet boy, always just trying to keep the peace. He was wearing his favorite t-shirt, the one with the Stegosaurus on it, which he firmly believed was the most powerful dinosaur. His blonde hair was getting a little long, another detail I was undoubtedly failing on, according to their silent scorecard. "I brought my sketchbook, Aunt Claire," Leo said, pulling it from his small backpack. "Do you want to see the new spaceship I designed?" Claire managed a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Maybe a bit later, buddy. I'm helping Mom with the dinner. After my divorce from Mark 4 years ago, I poured every ounce of myself into being the best single parent I could possibly be. I work full-time as an occupational therapist at a pediatric clinic. I make it to every single school function, and I still manage to read with Leo every night before bed. It was a constant state of exhaustion, but it was all worth it to see him happy and secure, especially given the near total absence of his father, who had relocated to the other side of the country with his new partner and only bothered to call on birthdays and Christmas. Claire, meanwhile, lived the flawless, unencumbered life in her pristine downtown condo. She taught second grade and was universally adored by her students and their parents. My mother never missed an opportunity to point out how Claire had done things the right way, unlike me, who had gotten pregnant just after graduating college and married Mark in what my mother still referred to as a hasty, predictable affair. "Amelia, couldn't you have at least run a comb through Leo's hair before you came?" my mother whispered as we moved toward the kitchen. "What will Mrs. Henderson from next door think if she sees him looking so scruffy?" The neighbors. It was always about the neighbors, as if their opinion was the final verdict on our family's worth. "He had a bath right before we left, Mom. He's 8 years old, not on his way to a board meeting. Well, when you were 8, I always made sure you and your sister looked presentable when you left this house." And there it was, the never-ending comparison. The kitchen, despite the simmering tension, smelled incredible. Roast chicken, Claire's favorite. It was never Leo's preferred spaghetti and meatballs or my favorite shepherd's pie. The dining table was already set with the good china, another one of the unspoken rules of these monthly command performances. We had to act like we were a perfect, happy family, even if the foundation was cracking beneath the polished veneer. "Did Claire tell you about her big trip this summer?" Mom asked, handing me a stack of plates to carry. "She's off to Southeast Asia for a month. Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia. All by herself. She's so brave, so independent." The unspoken part hung in the air. Unlike you, tied down with a child at such a young age. These dinners always followed the same script. Mom would sing Claire's praises. Claire would offer a humble brag about her latest accomplishment. Dad would remain a silent fixture, and I would attempt to share some small victory of Leo's, only to see it immediately belittled by a comparison to what Claire was doing at his age. Leo got a perfect score on his spelling test, I'd say. "Well, Claire was already reading at a 5th grade level when she was 8, Mom would counter. I kept forcing myself to attend these dinners because I held on to the belief that Leo needed a connection to his family. He needed to know his grandparents and his aunt, even if they consistently made me feel like an utter failure. I wanted him to have the sense of belonging I never quite found in this house. But I was starting to seriously question if that was ever going to be possible. "Dinner is served," my mother called out with a flourish, setting the platter of golden brown roast chicken in the center of the table. The aroma of rosemary and garlic filled the dining room. It was Claire's recipe, naturally, one she'd apparently perfected at a gourmet cooking class. "It looks amazing, Mom," I said, genuinely admiring the effort, despite everything. "Claire made the gravy," Mom added quickly, as if my praise hadn't been sufficient. "She has such a natural gift for these things." Leo scrambled into his chair, his eyes lighting up at the sight of the bread rolls. "Can I have 2, Nana?" he asked, his voice full of hope. "Just have one for now, sweetie," I said softly. "Let's make sure everyone gets one first." "Oh, let him have 2, Amelia," Claire chimed in. "It's not like he pays attention to what you say anyway." I felt the familiar jab of her words, but forced a smile for Leo's sake. It was her signature move, subtly undermining my authority as a parent while positioning herself as the fun, permissive aunt. As we began to eat, Mom, as always, steered the conversation directly back to Claire's latest triumphs. "Tell Amelia about the grant you won for the school garden project, Claire." Claire delicately dabbed her lips with her cloth napkin, taking a dramatic pause before answering. "Oh, it was nothing, really. Just a small grant to build an outdoor classroom. The proposal was chosen as a model for the entire district." "That's fantastic," I said, and I meant it. Whatever our issues, I never denied she was a gifted teacher. "And you have to tell them about your trip," Mom prompted, beaming. "A whole month. Starting in Bangkok, then up to Chiang Mai, over to Cambodia to see Angkor Wat, and finishing on the beaches in Vietnam," Claire recited, swirling her wine. "It's one of the perks of not having kids, the freedom to just go wherever, whenever." She shot a quick glance my way as she said it, the implication hanging in the air. I had made the wrong choice. She had made the right one. "Will you bring me a souvenir, Aunt Claire?" Leo asked, oblivious to the subtext. "Of course, little guy. Maybe a little carved elephant for your desk." Dad finally piped up from his end of the table. "Could you pass the potatoes?" With his conversational duty fulfilled, he returned to his silent consumption. As dinner wore on, Leo started to get restless, which is completely normal for an 8-year-old boy forced to sit at a formal table for nearly an hour. He'd been so good, using his napkin without being reminded, saying please and thank you. "Leo, would you like some cranberry juice?" Mom offered, already pouring the dark red liquid into one of her delicate crystal goblets before I could say a word. "Mom, maybe just a regular cup." "Those are so fragile," I suggested, trying to sound casual. "Nonsense. He's old enough to learn how to handle nice things," she said, waving away my concern. "Claire was using these glasses when she was 6. "Thanks, Nana," Leo said, taking the glass carefully with both hands. Claire watched him like a hawk. "Be careful with that. It's crystal, not some plastic cup from a fast food joint." "He knows, Claire," I said, my defensiveness rising. "He's 8, not a toddler." "Well, with your permissive parenting style, it's honestly hard to tell sometimes," she muttered. "Just loud enough for the whole table to hear." Mom nodded in agreement. "Children need structure, Amelia. In our day, children faced consequences for misbehavior. That's how they learned respect." "Times have changed, Mom. Research suggests positive reinforcement is more effective than punishment," I countered, struggling to keep my voice from shaking. "And that's precisely why this generation is so spoiled," Claire added. "No accountability." Dad grunted his assent from his end of the table, his eyes still fixed on the golf game visible from his seat. I saw Leo shrinking in his chair, the tension making him uncomfortable. His little shoulders were hunched as he focused with intense concentration on eating his food perfectly. He was trying so hard to be the good boy they demanded. "Can I have dessert now?" he asked, after his last bite of chicken. "What do we say?" I prompted gently. "Please, may I have dessert now?" Mom smiled, a rare sign of approval. "At least you've taught him some manners." "Yes, there's a chocolate fudge cake in the kitchen." As Mom left to get the cake, Leo reached for his juice, his excitement over the prospect of cake making him clumsy. His small hand bumped the crystal goblet. In what felt like slow motion, I watched the glass tip, sending a river of dark red juice cascading across the pristine white tablecloth, splashing directly onto Claire's new white silk blouse. The silence that followed felt like it lasted an eternity. "Oh my God!" Claire shrieked, jumping to her feet as the crimson stain bloomed across her chest. "This is brand new silk! It cost $200. Leo's eyes widened, his face pale with terror. "I'm sorry, Aunt Claire. I didn't mean to." I was on my feet instantly, grabbing my napkin. "It was an accident, Claire. Here, let me help you blot it before it sets in." "Get your hands off me," Claire snapped, recoiling. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what happens when you don't teach kids any discipline." Mom returned, holding the cake plate. She took one look at the scene, and her face flushed with fury. I could see she was about to detonate. This was never just about a blouse. It was years of pent-up resentment finally finding its moment. I'll get the stain remover, I said quickly, trying to diffuse the bomb as Leo's lower lip began to tremble. You little brat! Claire's voice was a blade, sharp and cold, as I came back from the kitchen with the stain remover. She was standing over Leo, who had shrunk back in his chair, tears finally spilling from his eyes. Claire! I rushed forward, putting myself between my sister and my son. It was an accident. He didn't do it on purpose. This is what happens when children aren't taught consequences, Amelia. She seethed, completely ignoring the stain remover I held out. He's totally undisciplined. He runs wild like a little animal. My mother just stood there, nodding in agreement with Claire's vicious tirade. We've told you that you're too soft on him, Amelia. Children require a firm hand. Leo slid off his chair and buried his face in my side. I'm really, really sorry, Mommy, he sobbed. I can help clean it. His voice was a tiny, trembling whisper. It's okay, sweetheart, I soothed, wrapping an arm around his shoulder. Accidents happen. Accidents happen, Claire mimicked in a shrill, mocking tone. That's your excuse for everything, isn't it? No wonder he thinks he can get away with murder. She shoved past me, deliberately knocking my shoulder as she stomped towards the stairs. This blouse is ruined. Absolutely ruined. Claire, please, I called after her. Let's just talk about this like adults. Adults? You mean like how you talk to Leo when he misbehaves? No consequences, just accidents happen? She vanished up the stairs, and the sound of her bedroom door slamming shut echoed through the silent house. My father finally glanced up from his game. You ought to get a handle on that boy, Amelia, he stated flatly, before turning his attention back to the screen. I felt my blood start to simmer, but I took a deep, shaky breath. Arguing with them would only make it worse for Leo, who was now desperately trying to dab at the tablecloth with his little napkin, silent tears streaming down his face. Leo? It's okay, I said softly, kneeling down to his level. Why don't you go into the living room? I'll get your sketchbook for you. I'm going to go talk to Aunt Claire. She hates me, he whispered, his hazel eyes huge with pain. No, sweetie, she doesn't. She's just really upset about her blouse. She doesn't hate you. I wiped his tears with my thumb. Go on now. I'll sort this out. As Leo trudged into the living room, his shoulders slumped in defeat, my mother clicked her tongue. You coddle him, Amelia. When you girls were young, spilling something at the dinner table would have earned you a serious talking to. He's 8, Mom. It was an accident. He feels terrible enough as it is. And that's why he'll never learn respect, she retorted, snatching up the stained napkins. You're raising him to be weak. I bit back the furious response and headed upstairs to find Claire. As I walked past my parents' bedroom, my eyes snagged on a familiar object. My father's old leather belt was hanging from the hook on the back of their door, the exact same belt he had used on Claire and me when we were kids. I froze, a wave of cold memories washing over me. The sound it made as it cut through the air, the sharp, stinging pain that lingered for hours, the humiliation, which was always so much worse than the physical pain itself. I had made a solemn vow the day Leo was born that I would never, ever use physical punishment. I would break that cycle. My hand instinctively went to my lower back, where a particularly harsh lesson for breaking my mother's favorite porcelain bird had left a mark that took weeks to fade. I was 9, just a year older than Leo. The memory was so real, so visceral, that for a second I was lost in it. Then a sound from downstairs jolted me back to the present, a sound that made my blood turn to ice, the sharp, sickening crack of leather hitting skin. It was followed by my son's piercing scream, "Mommy, I don't think I've ever moved so fast." I flew down the stairs, nearly tumbling over my own feet, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I could feel it in my throat. The scene that greeted me in the living room will be burned into my memory forever. Leo was crouched in a corner, his small body curled into a tight, protective ball. His Stegosaurus t-shirt was bunched up, exposing the angry red welt already forming on his lower back. Claire stood over him, my father's belt gripped tightly in her hand, raised to strike again. "What are you doing?" I shrieked, lunging across the room. The belt came down again, this time catching Leo across the back of his legs just before I could reach him. His scream was a sound of pure agony that tore through my heart like a physical blow. "This is how you teach a child respect," Claire yelled, her face twisted into a mask of rage I had never seen on her before. "This is what he needs." I grabbed the belt in midair, yanking it from her hand with a strength I didn't know I possessed, causing her to stumble back. "Get away from my son!" I screamed, flinging the belt across the room as if it were toxic. I scooped Leo up into my arms, his little body trembling violently against mine as he sobbed hysterically. "It's okay, baby. It's okay. Mommy's here," I whispered, rocking him. Though nothing was okay, nothing would ever be okay again. It was only then that I noticed my mother standing in the doorway, just watching. She hadn't made a move to stop it. She hadn't said a word. Instead, a small, chillingly satisfied smile played on her lips. "He needed that," she said, her voice eerily calm. "Sometimes a good spanking is the only way to get through to a child." "A spanking?" My voice was choked with disbelief. She was whipping him with a belt. He's 8 years old. My father was still in his recliner, mere feet from where his grandson had just been assaulted. He hadn't moved. He hadn't even bothered to turn down the volume on the television. "Let me see, sweetheart," I said gently, trying to look at Leo's legs. 2 more angry red welts were rising, one across his calves and another on the back of his thighs. My vision swam with tears of pure rage and horror. "How dare you?" I said, my voice dangerously quiet as I turned back to my sister. "How dare you put your hands on my child?" Claire crossed her arms, completely defiant. "Someone had to discipline him. You obviously weren't going to. It was just a few swats with a belt. We got far worse than that at his age, and we turned out just fine." "Fine?" I let out a harsh, bitter laugh. "You think this is fine? Beating a child? You think we turned out fine?" "Don't be so dramatic, Amelia," my mother interjected, stepping into the room. "It was hardly a beating. When you girls were... I know exactly what happened when we were growing up, Mother." I cut her off, and I swore I would never let that cycle of abuse continue with my son. "Abuse?" My mother's eyes widened with theatrical indignation. "How dare you use that word in this house? We disciplined you because we loved you." "That wasn't love," I said, standing up, Leo still clinging to me like a lifeline. "And this isn't love either. We're leaving right now." I grabbed Leo's backpack from the floor, my hands shaking with a furious energy. "You're overreacting," Claire said, rolling her eyes. "It was just a belt. And he ruined my blouse." "A blouse? You assaulted my child over a blouse?" I felt something inside me snap, the final frayed thread of duty to this family. "You're a teacher, Claire. You work with children. What would your principal say about this?" For the first time, something flickered in Claire's eyes. Fear. The dawning realization of what she had done, of the professional consequences. "You wouldn't dare," she whispered. I pulled out my phone, my decision solidifying in that instant. "I'm calling the police." My mother moved with a speed that belied her age, snatching the phone right out of my hand. "Don't you dare call the police on your own sister. You'll ruin her life, her entire career, over a little bit of discipline." "Give me my phone, Mom," I said, holding out my hand, trying to keep my voice from shaking for Leo's sake. She clutched the phone to her chest, shaking her head. I will not let you destroy this family with your overprotective nonsense. My father finally spoke, his voice a cold blade. Your mother's right, Amelia. You're raising a spoiled brat. You should be thanking your sister for trying to instill some discipline in him. I just stared at him. This man who had never once protected me and who was now utterly failing to protect his own grandson. Thanking her for beating my son? My mother laughed, a cold, dismissive sound that made my skin crawl. It was just a belt, Amelia. Stop being so dramatic. In that moment, I saw them. I saw my family for what they truly were, perhaps for the very first time. The deep dysfunction, the cruelty they disguised as discipline, the vicious cycle of abuse that would just keep going unless someone found the courage to stop it. And that someone was going to be me. Leo and I are leaving, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. And don't think for a second this is over. What's that supposed to mean? My mother's voice was tinged with uncertainty now. It means I'm done protecting the people who hurt us. It means there are consequences for adults, too, not just for children. I carried Leo towards the door, his face buried in my shoulder, his tears soaking the collar of my shirt. If you walk out that door and cause trouble for your sister, don't even think about coming back, my father yelled after me. I paused on the threshold and turned to look at the three people who called themselves my family. I wouldn't dream of it. Strapping a still sobbing Leo into his car seat, my hands were trembling so violently I could barely work the buckle. My phone was still in that house, in my mother's possession. But right then, the only thing that mattered was getting my son to safety. It hurts, Mommy, he whimpered, trying to keep his back from touching the seat. I know, baby. We're going to go get you some help. I kissed his forehead, my own tears finally falling onto his cheeks. I am so sorry this happened. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you. As I peeled out of their driveway, I saw my mother and Claire standing in the window, watching me go. They had no idea what was coming next, not a clue. The emergency room at the county hospital was surprisingly calm for a Saturday night. I carried Leo inside, his arms still locked around my neck, his hysterical sobs having quieted to intermittent, shuddering gasps. The harsh fluorescent lights felt blinding, too exposing. For a split second, I faltered. Was I overreacting? Was this really necessary? Then Leo whimpered as my hand accidentally brushed against one of the welts on his leg, and every shred of doubt evaporated. This wasn't just family drama. This was abuse. The triage nurse, whose name tag read Nurse Davis, took one look at Leo's tear-streaked face and my own frantic expression and immediately showed us to a private examination room. What happened? She asked, her voice gentle as she helped me get Leo settled on the paper-covered table. My sister, my voice cracked. She hit him, with a belt, for spilling his juice. Nurse Davis's professional mask didn't slip, but I saw her eyes harden. I'll need to document his injuries for the report. Is that okay? I nodded, my throat tight, and helped Leo take off his t-shirt. The angry red marks stood out in stark relief against his pale skin, one across his lower back and two more on his legs. These are the worst ones, I said, my finger hovering over them, but she hit him at least 3 times before I could get to him. Dr. Evans will be in to see you in just a moment, she said, giving my shoulder a firm, supportive squeeze. You did the right thing, bringing him here. Dr. Evans was a kind-faced man in his 50s, with a calm, reassuring presence that seemed to instantly put Leo at ease. He examined the welts carefully, asked Leo a few gentle questions about what had happened, and then asked if he could speak to me alone for a moment. Nurse Davis offered to show Leo a secret drawer of stickers and toys they kept for brave kids. and he reluctantly let her lead him away. "Mrs. Hayes," Dr. Evans began once the door was closed. "Miss," I corrected him automatically. "I'm divorced. Miss Hayes," he continued, his expression somber, "what I'm seeing here are clear signs of physical child abuse. By law, I am required to report this to both the police and to Child Protective Services." My heart pounded. "I understand. That's why I came. I want to press charges against my sister." I added, "She's an elementary school teacher." The weight of that fact hung in the air between us. Dr. Evans nodded grimly. "An Officer Reed has been dispatched and will be here shortly to take your statement. In the meantime, I'm prescribing a mild pain reliever for Leo and a topical cream for the welts." Officer Reed arrived while Leo was still with Nurse Davis, happily collecting what looked like one of every sticker she had. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man carrying a notebook, his serious expression softening as I recounted the events of the evening. "You absolutely did the right thing by coming here," he assured me, echoing the nurse's words. "A lot of people try to keep this kind of thing in the family." "That's exactly what my mother wanted," I said, a bitter taste in my mouth. She took my phone to stop me from calling. "Your sister made her own choices," Officer Reed said firmly, "and those choices have consequences." As I gave my formal statement detailing every last horrific moment, I felt a strange mix of empowerment and terror. This was real. I was reporting my own sister. I was shattering the unspoken family code of silence that had protected generations of discipline that was really abuse. "We will need to interview your son as well," the officer explained. "But not tonight. He's been through more than enough. I can schedule a time for him to speak with a forensic interviewer who is specially trained for this." Just as Officer Reed was finishing up, his phone rang. He had helped me use it to leave a message for my friend. It was an unknown number, but my heart sank. I knew who it was. "Amelia?" It was my mother's voice, strained and tight. "I'm using your father's phone." "Where are you? When are you coming back to get your things?" "I'm at the hospital, Mom, with Leo. We're getting his injuries documented." There was a long, cold silence on the other end. Then, "You are making a catastrophic mistake. Claire is beside herself. She says she barely even touched him." "There are welts, Mom. Actual bleeding welts on his body." "Children bruise easily," she dismissed, her voice like ice. "You need to bring Leo home right now, and we can all discuss this like a family." "There's nothing to discuss. Claire assaulted my son. Don't be ridiculous. It was discipline, not assault. If you go through with this, you will destroy your sister's career. Is that what you want? To ruin her life over a single moment of poor judgment?" I looked over at Officer Reed, who could clearly hear my mother's escalating voice through the phone. He gave me a small, encouraging nod. "What I want," I said, my own voice clear and strong, "is for my son to be safe. What I want is for Claire to face consequences for hurting a child. What I want is to break this disgusting cycle of abuse that our family has the audacity to call discipline." "If you do this," my mother's voice dropped to a menacing whisper, "you are no longer my daughter. Do you understand me? You will be dead to this family." The words stung, but less than I would have thought. "I understand perfectly, Mom. Goodbye." I hung up, my hand surprisingly steady. "Family pressure in these situations can be overwhelming," Officer Reed said with quiet understanding. "But you are doing what has to be done." After he left, promising to be in touch, I called the one person I knew I could count on. My best friend Sarah had been my college roommate and had seen me through my unplanned pregnancy, my rushed marriage, and my messy divorce. "I need your help," I said. The moment she answered, "Something awful has happened." Sarah listened to the whole story without a single interruption. When I was done, her response was immediate and unwavering. "Bring Leo to my place. Right now. You can both stay as long as you need. And I'm calling my cousin, Jessica. She's a family law attorney. Sarah, I can't afford a lawyer. Let me worry about that right now." She cut me off. "Just get yourself and Leo somewhere safe tonight. We will figure out the rest tomorrow." For the first time since I heard my son scream, I felt like I could take a full breath. We weren't alone in this. 2 days later, I was sitting across from Jessica Ford in her downtown law office. She was a sharp, intelligent woman with a no-nonsense demeanor that I found incredibly comforting. Based on the official medical report and the police statement, we have a very strong case, Jessica explained, peering over her reading glasses. "The district attorney's office is considering felony charges against your sister for child abuse. Given that she's a school teacher, they are taking this extremely seriously." "What about my parents?" I asked, my voice small. They just watched. My mom stopped me from calling for help. "We can absolutely pursue a restraining order against all 3 of them if you feel that's necessary for Leo's safety. And frankly, given their behavior, I would strongly recommend it. Will Leo have to testify in court? I don't want to put him through any more trauma. It's highly unlikely. The medical evidence and your testimony should be more than sufficient. However, Leo will need to speak with a child psychologist, not just for the legal case, but for his own healing." I nodded, my mind flashing to how quiet and withdrawn Leo had been since that night, how he flinched at any sudden noise, how he'd asked me in a tiny voice if we ever had to go back to Nana and Grandpa's house again. "I want to move," I said, the decision forming in my mind with sudden clarity. Somewhere they can't just show up, somewhere Leo can feel safe. Jessica nodded. "That's probably a wise decision. I can help you file for an emergency restraining order today. That will give you legal protection while you sort out a new place to live." As I signed the paperwork, I felt a bewildering mix of grief and relief. Grief for the family I had always wished for but never really had, and relief that I was finally taking real concrete action to protect my son and break free from the toxic patterns that had been normalized in my family for as long as I could remember. "You're doing the right thing, Amelia," Jessica said, as if she could read my thoughts. "It takes immense courage to stand up to your family, especially when they are so deeply in the wrong." Courage. Is that what this was? It felt more like pure, primal desperation, the instinct to protect my child at any cost. But maybe, just maybe, they were the same thing. 2 weeks after what Leo and I now just called the bad Saturday, I got a voicemail from the principal of the elementary school where Claire taught. She had been placed on indefinite administrative leave pending the outcome of the criminal investigation. The school district had no choice but to act. After that, the floodgates opened. A barrage of calls and texts from aunts, uncles, cousins, my parents' friends, people I hadn't heard from in years. They all carried the same tune. I had gone too far. I was destroying my sister's life. I needed to drop the charges and handle this as a family. "You were always jealous of your sister," my Aunt Carol hissed in one particularly hateful voicemail. "This is just your twisted way of getting revenge on her for being more successful than you." I deleted the messages one by one without responding. I found a month-to-month lease in a secure apartment building on the other side of town, and Leo and I moved in with little more than our clothes and his most treasured toys. The rest of our things could wait. Leo began seeing Dr. Sophia, a child psychologist who specialized in trauma. She used play therapy to help him process what had happened, and slowly, I began to see glimpses of my happy, carefree boy return. He still had nightmares. He still asked questions I struggled to answer. Why did Aunt Claire hurt me, Mommy? Is Nana mad at me? Are we ever going to see them again? I answered him as honestly as I could, in words he could understand. Aunt Claire was wrong to hurt you. It was never, ever your fault. Nana and Grandpa need to learn that hurting children is never okay. We won't see them until they understand that and can promise to keep you safe. 3 weeks after the incident, Jessica called. A meeting had been requested by my parents and Claire. They wanted to speak with me, with Jessica present as my advocate. Leo would stay with Sarah. You don't have to do this, Jessica reminded me. But sometimes, these face-to-face conversations can be productive. The word felt empty. What resolution could there be? Still, a small part of me needed to face them, to have my say without their manipulations and interruptions. The conference room at Jessica's office felt claustrophobic with all of us in it. My mother looked haggard, the lines around her mouth etched deeper than I remembered. My father sat rigidly beside her, his face a stony mask. Claire was the last to arrive, her eyes puffy and red-rimmed. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Jessica began. My client has consented to this conversation in the hope of finding a resolution that prioritizes Leo's well-being. This has gone on long enough, my mother cut in, ignoring Jessica. Amelia, you need to drop these insane charges. Your sister is about to lose everything because of one mistake. One mistake? I repeated, my voice surprisingly steady. She took a belt to my 8-year-old son for spilling juice. You stood there and watched it happen. Dad sat on the couch and did nothing. And then you physically stopped me from calling for help. It was discipline, my father insisted, his voice gravelly. The same discipline we used on you girls. And you turned out just fine. Did we? I challenged him, looking him straight in the eye. Did we really turn out fine, Dad? Because from where I'm standing, one of your daughters just assaulted a child, and the other one spent 35 years of her life thinking that kind of abuse was normal, until she saw it happen to her own son. No one is saying what Claire did was right. My mother backpedaled. She overreacted. She knows that. Does she? I turned my gaze to Claire. Do you understand what you did? Claire's lip trembled. I lost my temper. I'm sorry. But you're destroying my career, my entire life, over one mistake. Your career? A harsh laugh escaped me. You beat a child, Claire. A child who trusted you. You are a teacher. How many other kids have you disciplined when you've lost your temper? That's not fair, she sobbed. I would never do that at school. But you did it to your own nephew. In what universe is that acceptable? I grew up thinking it was normal, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Just like you did. And there it was, the rotten core of it all, the legacy of abuse, passed down from one generation to the next, sanitized and justified as discipline or tough love. That's why I'm doing this, I said, my voice softening just a fraction. Because it was considered normal in our family. Because no one ever had the strength to stand up and say, this stops now. Well, I'm saying it. This stops with me. It stops with Leo. My mother scoffed. So you'll just tear our family apart over a few bruises that have probably already faded? I turned to her, and for the first time, I think I truly saw her. Not as my mother, not as the authority figure I had spent a lifetime trying to please, but as a woman who had perpetuated profound harm and called it love. The bruises will fade, Mom. The trust won't, not without real, fundamental change. Not without all of you admitting that what happened wasn't just a mistake or an overreaction, but that it was abuse, that it was wrong. What do you want from us? My father asked, his voice rough with an emotion I couldn't place. I want you to get help, all of you. I want you to go to therapy and understand why what you did was abuse, not discipline. And until you do that, you will not be seeing Leo. You can't keep our grandson from us, my mother blustered, though a flicker of doubt crossed her face. Actually, she can, Jessica interjected calmly. The court has already granted a temporary restraining order. Given the circumstances, we would have no trouble making it permanent. This isn't what I want, I said, and it was the truth. I want Leo to have grandparents who love and protect him. I want him to have an aunt who is a safe person to be around. But right now, none of you are. Claire was openly weeping now. What can I do? Please, Amelia, tell me what I can do to fix this. I looked at my sister, this person I had loved and resented in equal measure my entire life, and felt an unexpected twinge of compassion. She was just as much a product of this toxic system as I was. The only difference was I had chosen to break the cycle. She hadn't, not yet. Get therapy, Claire. Real, intensive therapy, anger management, parenting classes. Show me that you understand the gravity of what you did and that you are truly committed to changing. It won't be easy, it won't be quick, but it's the only path forward. And the charges? My father pressed. The charges stand, I said firmly. Actions have consequences. That's a lesson all of you desperately need to learn. As the meeting ended, my mother wouldn't even look at me. My father just shook his head in bitter disappointment. But Claire lingered. I really am so sorry, she whispered as I gathered my things. I never, ever meant to hurt him that badly. I know, I said, and I believed her, but intent doesn't erase impact. Leo is still having nightmares. He flinches when someone raises their voice. Those are the real consequences. Can I write him a letter? Just to apologize? I considered it. You can write a letter. I'll read it. If I think it's appropriate, I will give it to him when he's ready. It was a tiny crack of light under a door I thought was sealed shut, but it was a start. As I walked out of that office, I felt lighter. Not because the pain was gone, but because for the first time in my life, I had stood my ground. I had put my son's safety above their approval. I had chosen to break the cycle, no matter the cost, and that, in itself, felt like a victory. 6 months have passed since that awful Saturday dinner. Leo and I have made a real home in our new apartment, a bright 2-bedroom with a small balcony where we're attempting to grow tomatoes. It's modest, but it's ours. And more importantly, it's a sanctuary. Leo is thriving at his new school. His teacher sent home a note just last week praising his creativity and his kindness to his classmates. He's made a new best friend, a boy in our building who shares his obsession with dinosaurs. I even received a promotion at the therapy clinic, taking on more complex cases and mentoring a new therapist. The extra income has eased our financial stress, allowing for small joys like swim lessons for Leo and our new tradition of Friday night pizza and movie marathons. We've built a new family, a chosen family of friends who have supported us without judgment. The legal case against Claire ended with a plea agreement. She pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of child endangerment, receiving 2 years of probation, and was court-ordered to complete extensive therapy and parenting education courses. Her teaching license was suspended with the possibility of reinstatement only after she completes her probation and all mandated programs. She's been working at a bookstore, and according to a report her therapist sent to Jessica, with Claire's permission, she is making genuine progress. My parents are still distant. My father hasn't spoken a word to me since that day in the lawyer's office. My mother calls every few weeks, but the conversations are brief and shallow. She still can't bring herself to admit the harm that was done, still mutters about me overreacting. I've come to accept that some people are simply unwilling or unable to change. Last week, I was in the grocery store when I heard a hesitant voice call my name. Amelia? I turned to find Claire standing there. She looked different, less polished, more subdued, but also more authentic. Hi, I said, my heart rate picking up. How are you? How's Leo? She asked, her eyes downcast. We're doing well, I said carefully. He's happy at his new school. She nodded. I've been wanting to tell you. I just want you to know that I get it now. What I did was inexcusable. It was abuse. It wasn't discipline. I've been working so hard to understand why I did that and to make sure I am never that person again. I studied her face, searching for the old performative perfection, the resentment. Instead, I saw humility and what looked like genuine remorse. That's good to hear, Claire, I said finally. It matters that you understand. I wrote another letter for Leo, she said, pulling an envelope from her purse. If you think he's ready, no pressure if he isn't. I took the letter. I'll read it first, I said. Of course, she agreed immediately. And maybe someday, if he's ready, maybe I could see him. With you there, of course, whatever makes you comfortable. The old Amelia would have jumped at the chance to smooth things over. The new me paused. That's not up to me, I said. It's up to Leo. If and when he ever wants to see you, we can talk about what that would look like. But it will be completely on his terms. She nodded, accepting the boundary without a fight. I understand. Thank you for even considering it. As we went our separate ways, I felt a quiet acknowledgement that healing isn't a straight line. Some relationships might be cautiously rebuilt, while others must remain distant for safety's sake. The letter Claire wrote was simple, age-appropriate, and full of remorse without any excuses. I shared it with Dr. Sophia, who agreed it could be a positive step for Leo when he felt ready. Aunt Claire wrote you a letter, I told him one evening. Would you like me to read it to you? He sat quietly for a long moment, his face serious. Maybe tomorrow, he said. Not today. That is perfectly fine, I told him, my heart swelling with love for this wise little boy. There is no rush. It's your choice. And that has been the most powerful lesson of all. The power to choose safety over obligation, to set boundaries, even with family, to break cycles of harm. Healing has come in quiet moments, in the laughter of my son, in the support of our chosen family, in the simple joy of an ordinary day free from fear. I look at Leo, humming to himself on the living room floor as he builds a spaceship, and I know I did the right thing. The cycle stops here, with us. Sometimes, the family you are born into isn't your real family. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is finding the courage to say, no more. Have you ever had to make a painful choice to protect yourself or someone you love? What gave you the strength to do what was necessary, even when it hurt? I would be honored to hear your stories in the comments below. Please remember to like this video if my story resonated with you, subscribe for more stories about resilience, and share this with anyone who might need to hear that it's okay to choose your own safety over a toxic family obligation. Thank you for listening. Remember, you're not alone.